Lovely. Okay, do you start or do I start?
Either way, I can start if you like. Good evening. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website, our podcast, and our YouTube channel. We record in audio only. Feel free to use this podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you missed the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so you can follow along. And tonight we will not have a recap. We will have what's known as the blue page. It'll be read by me because that is the start of a new chapter. And this blue page you all do not have. So don't go looking for it. And then our study portion will start on page XV and end on page XVIII.
Okay, are there any announcements?
I don't think
Okay.
so.
Let's see. Good evening, everyone. I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Terry Pickle Chips. Welcome to the Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for a big book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of silent meditation followed by our family's fog light prayer.
And I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Shayna. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you are unmuted and sharing as not to distract others or yourself. We suggest we all observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. A friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share. We will call on you in the order hands are raised.
From the foreword of the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, to show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are: focus on your breath and posture, breathe in God and breathe out self.
Take this time to connect with God. Let the craziness of the day drift away and ask God to help you focus on the study. And Trish, bring those monkeys in.
And let's have our fog light prayer. Terry? You're muted, Terry.
Just unmuted too. Sorry. Fog light prayer. God, let your love shine through us like a fog light, so that those that are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
Amen. And let's have our secretary's report. Come on in, Donald.
Hey, good evening and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Donald, and I am your recovered alcoholic secretary for the next few weeks. And I have asked Serena to please read the recovered statement. Do we have that? There it is. It's coming.
I had the fog light prayer. Hold on.
So did I. It's coming.
Okay.
Hold on.
So anyway, I have asked Serena to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be recovered alcoholic. Take it away there, Serena.
Can you make that just a tiny bit bigger for me, Donald? Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered but not cured, that presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we are cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime. But we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday evening, starting at 5:30 Central Time, with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study starts promptly at 6:30 Central, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our Big Book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only element to sobriety were God, a Big Book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, and the success rate was as follows. From the foreword to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX, of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapse, and the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time? Cool.
Welcome, Serena.
Then
Welcome,
the
Shana.
recovered alcoholics. These are your potential sponsors. If anyone is anyone celebrating a milestone this week?
don't see any.
My windows are going crazy and stuff. Oh, kiddo. That's good. If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that we can send you by buzzard mail. Delivery time is questionable. Okay. Please remember to practice our 7th tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo or PayPal, posted in chat and on the screen right now. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website posted in the chat. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, is this you or me, Sheena?
It's you.
Okay, from chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself, nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
Well, this is an open meeting. Membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize obligation and duties.
Now, before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 11. Tonight, let's take a quick look at Tradition 12. Please refer to page 562 of Alcoholics Anonymous. And Lisa, come on in, girl.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa and I'm your alcoholic traditionalist tonight. Tonight we're on Tradition 12, the short form. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all of our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. And the long form. And finally, we of Alcoholics Anonymous believe that the principle of anonymity has an immense spiritual significance. It reminds us that we are to place principles before personalities, that we are actually to practice a genuine humility. This to the end that our great blessings may never spoil us, that we shall forever live in thankful contemplation of Him who presides over us all. And I found a reading that I could relate to, and I'll read that for you guys right now. Making myself anonymous. Tradition 12 seems like a step to me. It's so spiritual in its focus on anonymity. Someone said it well. What is shared in meetings is more important than who said it. The hard part for me is to remember that I, too, am a personality. When I start thinking that what I share is really important, that people really need to hear me, well, I've put my own personality before the very principles I am attempting to convey. I start to think of myself as being uniquely capable of transmitting the message of recovery from alcoholism. Suddenly, I am the person everyone needs to hear. I really related to this part. Sure, how boring, yet predictable. As a lifelong know-it-all, people pleaser, caretaker, mind reader, problem fixer, and control freak, I am incredibly susceptible to believing my own propaganda. Of course, pretty soon someone lets me know that I am really very dispensable, and my input or advice isn't needed. Thank you very much. When I go to meetings, I am reminded that I am one among many. This is truly a we program. Other people's recovery doesn't depend solely on me. There are so many terrific people in the program who can help other alcoholics, including me. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, now for the portion that ain't in the big book. We hear a lot of stuff said in meetings that can't be reconciled with the program as described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. What follows is one of the things we often hear, along with what the Big Book has to say on the subject. One of the things we hear is there are no musts in this program. And Kenny, can you tell us what it says on page 78, paragraph 2 at the bottom? Starts with we must lose.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Kenny, I'm calling. We must lose our fear of predators, no matter how far we have to go, for we are liable to drink if we are afraid to face them.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kenny. Thank you, Lisa. Okay.
As we study, please make sure or make use of pens, highlighters, and rulers so that you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use a Big Book study guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
And tonight, we are going to read from the blue page. Again, you all do not have this. I will be reading it loud, and then it'll be followed by our study portion, read by, I forget, give me a hand raise.
Alyssa.
Oh, Alyssa! Yay! And then we will go back to the imaginary podium for questions, starting back where our study started. The answers will then be one sentence, unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are just simply a one-sentence answer. Split it by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Particularly in English, what that means is we're going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the questions gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
And this is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed this study, we open up for comment, questions, and observations based on what was just read. If you have spiritual experiences with this information, you are free to share. Please keep your share on topic in under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, you may hear a timer beep to let you know that your time is finished.
However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, like with your sponsor, please do not be offended when we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied. Which brings us to the words of one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps, is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group.
Okay, who can do how we arrived at this point?
I will take that, Terry. I'm Trish and I'm an alcoholic. And how we got here, we didn't just randomly open the page tonight and say, let's study the foreword to the second edition. This meeting started back in COVID in 2020, or before COVID in January 2020, and we start on the title page and we read through line by line, and each sentence is the answer to a question out of our format. And as we read, we go through the preface, the forewords, the first 164 pages. Then we also read Dr. Bob's story, the traditions, and we end out our study with Appendix 2, the spiritual experience. We're actually extending it to be a 96-week study because there's a lot of stuff in those traditions. So we're going to extend that by an extra 2 weeks so we can spend a little bit more time there. We just finished all that up. We're now on week 2 in our 4th season of going through the big book. So it takes us quite a while to go through, but it's thorough and we learn a lot. And I hope to see you keep coming back so we can all keep learning together.
Thank you, Trish. Before we start the recap, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you would like to be one of our answer readers. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it on our website.
Right.
I will go ahead and screen share the blue page for you, Shayna.
Yay, thank you. I was going to say, I do have it. I wasn't sure if we screen shared it or not, but I like it. Okay, week 2, blue page. Foreword to the second edition. The foreword to the second edition provides a brief history of the first 20 years of the creation of Alcoholics Anonymous. In this foreword, Bill W. tells how, through Dr. Silkworth and the Oxford Group, he found a solution to his alcoholism. He tells how he was able to stay sober by trying to help other alcoholics. He recounts how his business venture in Akron failed and why he so desperately felt the need to find another alcoholic to talk with. This need led to his meeting with Dr. Bob, who had to find a way to stay sober but had failed completely. Their meeting led to the two of them believing they could stay sober if they worked together. From their combined efforts to protect their sobriety by searching out and going to suffering alcoholics came a fellowship of sober alcoholics from whom came the life-saving program of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is the content of this book. They tell how they found the acceptance and endorsement of some of the leading citizens of our country. We learn of some of the favorable publicity this little group of sober alcoholics received from some very influential news sources, which led to a rapid growth of the fellowship. We are given a glance at the recognition of some of the problems our founders faced and how they successfully developed a set of guidelines for our conduct within our respective groups and within the fellowship itself. the 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. We learn how successful those seeking help were when the only guide we had was the big book, the basic text for our fellowship. It is very obvious that we are not doing nearly as well today because of the emphasis on meetings rather than program. These are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. It concludes by telling us of the hope behind the writing of this book. While much of our literature talks about the steps, the directions are still only found in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Okay, we're gonna Pinky Pickle, Alyssa Pinky Pickle is gonna read for us, starting on page X5 through XV1.
XVII.
XVII. Okay, it's wrong. Okay, XVII. Okay, and this is the forward to the second edition. Okay, Alyssa, thank you.
Thank you, Miss Terry. Alyssa, recovered alcoholic. The forward to the second edition. Figures given in this forward describe the fellowship as it was in 1955. Since the original forward to this book was written in 1939, a wholesale miracle has taken place. Our earliest printing voiced the hope that every alcoholic who journeys will find the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous at his destination. Already continues, the early texts, 2s and 3s and 5s of us have sprung up in other communities. 16 years have elapsed between our first printing of this book and the presentation in 1955 of our second edition. In that brief space, Alcoholics Anonymous has mushroomed into nearly 6,000 groups, whose membership is far above 150,000 recovered alcoholics. Groups are to be found in each of the United States and all the provinces of Canada. AA has flourishing communities in the British Isles, the Scandinavian countries, South Africa, South America, Mexico, Alaska, Australia, and Hawaii. All told, promising beginnings have been made in some 50 foreign countries and U.S. possessions. Some are just now taking shape in Asia. Many of our friends encourage us by saying that this is but a beginning, only the augury of a much larger future ahead. The spark that was to flare into the first AA group was struck at Akron, Ohio in June 1935, during a talk between a New York stockbroker and an Akron physician. 6 months earlier, the broker had been relieved of his drink obsession by a sudden spiritual experience following a meeting with an alcoholic friend who had been in contact with the Oxford groups of that day. He had also been greatly helped by the late Dr. William D. Silkworth, a New York specialist in alcoholism who is now accounted no less than a medical saint by AA members, and whose story by the early days of our society appears in the next pages. From this doctor, the broker had learned the grave nature of alcoholism. Though he could not accept all the tenets of the Oxford groups, he was convinced of the need for moral inventory, confession of personality defects, restitution to those harmed, helpfulness to others, and the necessity of belief in and dependence upon God. Prior to his journey to Akron, the broker had worked hard with many alcoholics on the theory that only an alcoholic could help an alcoholic. But he had succeeded only in keeping sober himself. The broker had gone to Akron on a business venture which had collapsed, leaving him greatly in fear that he might start drinking again. He suddenly realized that in order to save himself, he must carry his message to another alcoholic. That alcoholic turned out to be the Akron physician. This physician had repeatedly tried spiritual means to resolve his alcoholic dilemma, but it failed. But when the broker gave him Dr. Silkworth's description of alcoholism and its hopelessness, the physician began to pursue the spiritual remedy for his malady with a willingness he had never before been able to muster. He sobered, never to drink again, up to the moment of his death in 1950. This seemed to prove that one alcoholic could affect another as no non-alcoholic could. It also indicated that strenuous work, one alcoholic with another, was vital to permanent recovery. Hence, the two men set to work almost frantically upon alcoholics arriving in the ward of the Akron City Hospital. Their very first case, a desperate one, recovered immediately and became AA number 3. He never had another drink. This work at Akron continued through the summer of 1935. There were many failures, but there was an occasional heartwarming success. When the broker returned to New York in the fall of 1935, the first AA group had actually been formed, though no one realized it at the time. A second small group promptly took shape at New York, to be followed in 1937 with the start of a third at Cleveland. Besides these, there were scattered alcoholics who had picked up the basic ideas in Akron or New York, who were trying to form groups in other cities. By late 1937, the number of members having substantial sobriety time behind them was sufficient to convince the membership that a new light had entered the dark world of the alcoholic. Thank you for letting me be of service.
Thank you so much. Well done. Okay, I could use one more virtual hand. We have 4 now. 5 is preferable, but if that's all we got, that's fine. Okay, for answer readers, please speak clearly into your microphones. We will ask the questions from our script by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff. The answers to the questions will be sentence by sentence, coming directly out of this week's study, beginning with the first sentence and ending with the last one. Okay, so Kenny joined us. Thank you, Kenny. Okay, our batting order for tonight: Stephanie, Larry, Lisa, Art, and Kenny. That's all we need. Thank you. Okay, so let me get myself organized here. Okay, we're going to start with Stephanie and this is on page XV. From the first edition to the publication of this edition, what had taken place?
Since the original foreword to this book was written in 1939, a wholesale miracle has taken place.
Thank you, Steph. Larry, what was the hope of the earliest printing?
You're muted, Larry.
Larry.
Thank you, I'm sorry. Our earliest printing voiced the hope that every alcoholic who journeys will find the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous at his destination.
Thanks, Larry. Lisa, had this hope become a reality by 1955?
Already, continues the early text, 2s and 3s and 5s of us have sprung up in other communities.
Thank you. Art, how many years passed before the second edition was published?
16 years have elapsed between our first printing of this book and the presentation in 1955 of our second edition.
Kenny, thank you, Art. Kenny, this is 2 parts. A, during that period of time, how many AA groups had been formed? And B, how many alcoholics had recovered?
In that brief space, Alcoholics Anonymous has mushroomed into nearly 6,000 groups whose membership is far above 150,000 recovered alcoholics.
Thank you, Kenny. Okay, back to the beginning. Staff, this is 4 sentences. How far had AA spread during these 16 years?
Groups are to be found in each of the United States and all of the provinces of Canada.
Keep going, there's 4 sentences.
AA has flourishing communities in the British Isles, the Scandinavian countries, South America, South Africa, Mexico, Alaska, Australia, and Hawaii. All told,
One more. Yeah, you're good. Keep going.
promising beginnings have been made in some 50 foreign countries and U.S. possessions. Some are now just taking shape in Asia.
Thank you. Okay, Larry, what did many of our friends see ahead for our fellowship?
Many of our friends encourage us by saying that this is but a beginning, only the augury of a much larger future ahead.
Okay, Lisa, 3 parts. Where was the first group formed? When was the first group formed? And who were the principals of the first group?
The spark that was to flare into the first AA group was struck at Akron, Ohio in June 1935 during a talk between a New York stockbroker and an Akron physician.
And here is a comment. I'll come in with a couple of them, but the stockbroker was Bill W. and the physician was Dr. Bob Silkworth.
Okay. Art. This is, now we're on page XVI. 4 parts. How long had Bill W. been recovered? How had Bill W. been relieved of his drinking problem? What had preceded Bill's recovery, and with whom had the friend Ebby T. been in contact?
6 months earlier, the broker had been relieved of his drink obsession by a sudden spiritual experience, following a meeting with an alcoholic friend who had been in contact with the Oxford groups of the day.
Okay, Kenny, this is a 4-parter. Who else had been very helpful to Bill's recovery? What was Dr. Silkworth's specialty? How do we as a fellowship feel about Dr. Silkworth? And where do we find his story?
He had also been greatly helped by the late Dr. William D. Silkworth, a New York specialist in alcoholism, who is now accounted no less than a medical saint by AA members, whose story of the early days of our society appears in the next pages.
Yes. Thank you, Kenny. Stephanie, what vital piece of information did Bill W. learn from the doctor?
From this doctor, the broker had learned the grave nature of alcoholism.
Larry, this is a 2-part. Could Bill accept the tenets of the Oxford group, and what tenets could he accept?
Though he could not accept all the tenets of the Oxford group, he was convinced of the need for moral inventory, confession of personal defects, restriction to or restitution to those harmed, helpfulness to others, and the necessity of belief independence upon God.
Good job.
And thank you. I have another comment. Turn to page 263 in the 4th edition and page 292 in the 3rd. The 6 steps were 1. Complete deflation. 2. Dependence and guidance from a higher power. 3. A moral inventory. 4. Confession. 5. Restitution. And 6. Continued work with other alcoholics.
Okay. Lisa, 3 parts. What had Bill done before going to Akron? On what theory had he done this? And what were the results of his efforts?
Prior to his journey to Akron, the broker had worked hard with many alcoholics on the theory that only an alcoholic could help an alcoholic. But he had succeeded only in keeping sober himself.
Art, this is a 2-parter also. What had happened to his business venture? What had happened to his business venture in Akron, and how did that affect him?
The broker had gone to Akron on a business venture which had collapsed, leaving him greatly in fear that he might start drinking again.
Kenny, what did he realize?
He suddenly realized that in short order to save himself, he must carry his message to another alcoholic.
Thank you. Stephanie, who did he find as a result of his efforts?
That alcoholic turned out to be the Akron physician.
Okay, and then next, Larry. Okay, hold on. I'm having trouble. Oh, there it is. Larry, 2-parter. What had the doctor done to try and whip his drinking problem, and had it worked?
This physician had repeatedly tried spiritual means to resolve his alcoholic dilemma, but it had failed.
Lisa, another 2-parter. What did Bill tell Dr. Bob, and did that information prove helpful to Dr. Bob?
But when the broker gave him Dr. Silkworth's description of alcoholism and its hopelessness, the physician began to pursue the spiritual remedy for his malady with a willingness he had never before been able to muster.
And Art, how successful was Dr. Bob in doing what Bill told him he had done?
He sobered, never to drink again up to the moment of his death in 1950.
Kenny, what did this prove?
This seemed to prove that one alcoholic could affect another as no non-alcoholic could.
Okay. Stephanie, up on page XV1. What other important fact did it prove?
It also indicated that strenuous work, one alcoholic with another, was vital to permanent recovery.
Thank you. Larry, what did the 2 men then do?
Hence, the 2 men set to work almost frantically upon alcoholics arriving in the ward of Akron City Hospital.
Thank you. What happened to Lisa? What happened to their first 2 cases? 2 sentences.
Their very first case, a desperate one, recovered immediately and became AA number 3.
One more sentence.
He never had another drink.
Thank you. Art, did they quit? Did they quit with that success?
This work at Akron continued through the summer of 1935.
Okay, Kenny, another two-parter. When did Bill return home, and what happened that he and Dr. Bob were unaware of?
There were many failures, but there...
No, that starts when the broker.
Okay,
No, maybe I messed up. Hold on.
You skipped
Okay.
a question, Terry.
Okay, and that would be Kenny. Sorry, you were right, Kenny. Were they extremely successful with others?
there were many failures, but there also was an occasional heartening success.
Okay, Stephanie, this is your two-parter. When did Bill return home, and what had happened that he and Dr. Bob were unaware of?
When the broker returned to New York in the fall of 1935, the first AA group had actually been formed, though no one realized it at the time.
I have another comment. In some copies of the Big Book, the following paragraph is broken into two paragraphs. Where that is the case, the first paragraph begins as follows. By late 1937, the number of members having substantial sobriety time behind them was sufficient to convince the membership that a new light had entered the dark world of the alcoholic. The second paragraph reads, a second small group had promptly taken shape at New York. And besides, they were scattered alcoholics who had picked up the basic ideas in Akron or New York and were trying to form AA groups in other cities.
Okay, Larry. Where was the second AA group formed, and when and where was the third group formed? Two parts.
A second small group promptly took shape at New York, to be followed in 1937 with the start of a third at Cleveland.
Lisa, were groups being formed elsewhere?
Besides these, there were scattered alcoholics who had picked up the basic ideas in Akron or New York, who were trying to form groups in other cities.
Okay, and Art, let's wrap it up with the last sentence. Last question. When did the sober alcoholics realize they had something really worthwhile?
By late 1937, the number of members having substantial sobriety time behind them was sufficient to convince the membership that a new light had entered the dark world of the alcoholic.
Give yourself a hand, you guys. That was almost flawless. Mine was the only flaw, but what a great team to work with. Thank you. We will now open the floor for sharing. If you have experience with a portion of the book that was just read, please feel free to share. A friendly reminder as we share, profanity offends no one. We're open for comment, questions, and observations based on what you just read. If you have spiritual experience with this information, you are free to share. So the meeting is open for sharing. Shayna, can you call on people? I got a lot of glare here.
Sure.
Okay,
the first
thank
one
you.
I see is Pinky. Are you able to unmute? Oh, there you go.
Thank you, Shayna. Alyssa, recovered alcoholic. The main thing that I took from the reading is that for me, the 12th step is vital to my permanent recovery. You know, I try to live in 10, 11, and 12 every day. 10 encompasses 4 through 9. Well, really 1 through 9, but, and then 11 and 12. But working with another alcoholic, I can't guarantee that they're going to stay sober, but it guarantees me staying sober. Yeah, that, you know, does that seem selfish? No, because I'm giving away what was so freely given to me. I'm powerless over whether or not the person on the receiving end is going to take what I'm giving away. But at the end of the day, it's vital to my permanent recovery. I stay sober. You know, I ensure that my spiritual life is enlarged, and that's what I have control over. I'm powerless over people, places, and things, and you know, that's what the steps have taught me. And I'm thankful that I can give away what was so freely given to me. You know, the results are up to God. I just have to suit up and show up. You know, I'm not the one responsible for another person's recovery. I can help and assist. I don't, like, when I wake up in the morning, I don't know where my higher power is going to have me go or who he's going to have me help. But I'm willing. And again, that ensures that by the end of the day, I lay my head down sober, and that throughout the day, I've enlarged my spiritual life, and I've grown my relationship with my higher power. And, you know, it doesn't matter what life tries to throw at me today. I truly do live a life beyond my wildest dreams. And I'm at peace. And I'm not at peace because of the things that I have. I'm at peace because of God. And that I allow him to direct my life, and I'm not trying to take that role away from the one who has all power, because I was really burning up energy foolishly for a really long time. And so I'm thankful that I have the tools today so I don't have to do that. So thanks for letting me share.
Well said. Thank you, Alyssa. Lisa, come on in.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa. I'm an alcoholic. Boy, I was just thinking with the reading, boy, you know, I'm just so grateful for the work these guys did. And, you know, what really struck me, it's so true, the grave nature of alcoholism. You know, so many years, I mean, going on decades. I didn't get it. I thought it was, you know, about putting the drink down. I could always do that for sometimes pretty decent amounts of time. I never got the spiritual malady. You know, the hopelessness and just the feeling, all those feelings, and you know, the distorted thinking. It's all up here. I never got that. It's because I never picked up this book. You know, I love learning about what's going on with me, you know, and, you know, pretty quickly these days, I see when I'm getting back into my own will. And that's something, because I'd be stuck in it for months. I mean, it was just a really, really lousy way to live. You know, I had a lot of trouble just seeing my part. You know, I'm trying to help you. Don't you understand? I'm trying to fix this. I'm trying to control everything, and everybody pissed off at me, and it's a lousy way to live. And you know, learning about this disease that I have, and the willingness that I've never before had, because like I said, I didn't think it was me. I saw it in other people. I saw what they were doing wrong, but I just couldn't see it. And you know, and I needed some people to really, really help me crack those walls, or that oh boy, I'm telling you, it's very awakening too. And I liked that I was willing to hear it. That was a lot for me. That was very hard to hear different things, but I was willing to hear it. And they were right. And they continue to be right. And I appreciate that. And I need that. You know, when I first started, I had a couple of sponsors. One didn't even, I don't think she ever mentioned the big book. The next one told me that if I don't do the steps, she's not going to be my sponsor, and I wasn't ready. I wasn't there. I got resentful. That was that. Up until a few years ago, I tried a temporary sponsor. You know, and I started hearing things, and, you know, and then finally last year, I became willing and opened my mouth and asked people for help. And boy, you know, I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful. I know God put you guys, this group, you guys in my life, and you know, it's a daily work, but my life is getting better. I am getting better. You know, I'm starting to see this distortion. You know, my thinking can take me, and I don't want to go to those places anymore. They just lead me to not so good things, and sooner or later leads me back to the drink. And I don't want to do that today. And, so I'm just very grateful that I can be part of it and learn from what these guys did. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Also very well said. Trish or Billy, I'm not sure.
It's me.
It's you.
I'm Trish and I'm an alcoholic. And Terry and Shana, thank you for taking the meeting on tonight. You know, I love reading the forwards. When I first came in, while I didn't want to read the forwards, being shown or told what was in the forwards and how much AA had grown from the time Bill and Bob met to the time I first came in, AA had pretty much traveled most of the world at that point. And that was a good indication to my little pea brain that AA must work if it's all over the place. Because if I didn't know it was going to work, I wasn't going to want anything to do with it. Because I was still at that point I was still on, if I can't do it perfect, if it's not going to work perfect, I don't want anything to do with it. But knowing that AA had a success rate, I was willing to give it a shot. And I love how it brings in the history of the 6 tenets of the Oxford groups. And I can see in those 6 where our 12 steps came from. But even though they're in a little bit of a different order. But seeing that even Bill initially said, I can't accept all of them, but I'm willing to do some of them. And that's where I was in the beginning. I looked at the steps like, I'm not willing to do all of them, but I'm willing to start out and do some of them. And that willingness eventually led me to the willingness to at least try the other steps. May not have been complete, but it was as complete and thorough as I could at the time. And certainly the expresses the background, some of the background of Dr. Silkworth and how important he was to the program, to Bill, and then sharing what Bill knew with Dr. Bob and allowing him to recognize the spirituality and how he was able to then move on from there into his own recovery. And certainly showing us one alcoholic working with another alcoholic is going to work so much better and be so much more effective than someone who doesn't have the same background. And it says somewhere else in the book, you know, we speak each other's language. We speak the same language. I had people not in AA, not with alcoholic background, not with book study background, telling me I drank too much, I needed to quit. But nobody could ever tell me why. But once I had somebody in my life who was willing to sit down and tell me the why, I have the allergy, I have the obsession, I have that spiritual malady. I didn't know those words at the time, but once I was able to recognize that, yeah, I have a problem. And that recognition came from many hours of conversation with someone else in the rooms, who had the patience, who had the love, who had the time to share with me, like so many of us do with others, like so many of us before, so many people before us did, leading up to those who were able to share the message with me and with each one of us in the room. And then to recognize that, you know, a second small group taking shape in New York, followed by a third group in Cleveland, and others were trying to form in other groups or cities. Those who had learned the basic ideas in Akron and New York were trying to spread out. And then in 1937, numbers having spiritual sobriety time. Not the substantial time that we have today, of course, because they didn't have AA this amount of time, but there was enough time that people had that it was able to convince the membership and other people out in the community that there was hope for an alcoholic. There was hope back then for an alcoholic like me when I walked in, because everybody else was able to share that hope with me. And if Bill and Bob hadn't met, and all those other people in between Bill and Bob, following that history of one alcoholic sharing with another, I don't know where I'd be today. But, you know, God has given all of us a chance to be together, to share, to study, to learn. And then we can go ahead and take that to share and study and learn with other people. Thanks.
Thank you, Trish. You bounced on my screen. You moved squares. Do I have any other? Thank you, Art. Come on in.
Hi everybody, my name is Art. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic.
Hi, Art.
And there's a couple of observations that I'd like to make regarding what we read here tonight. One is the references that were made to people who had recovered from alcoholism. And I don't quite understand the reluctance of people in our society today to claim recovery. They claim they're in recovery, they claim they're recovering, they claim all kinds of things like that, but why don't we claim recovery? I don't quite understand that. We have recovered. Then the other thing that I wanted to bring out is that the story of Bill's experience before going to Akron, and what was said about the experiences that they had in spreading the message to other alcoholics in Akron before he went back to New York, where they had many disappointments and an occasional heartening success. And from those statistics, for those statements, I get the idea, and I've said it many times, probably most of you have heard me say it, that the measure of success in working with other people is not how many people got sober as a result of my efforts, but the measure of success is that I stayed sober. Because you see, Bill had worked with, I'm not sure that there's a number put on it, but many alcoholics in New York prior to going to Akron and meeting with Bob, and none of them got sober. He worked with them for like 6 months and wasn't able to claim any person in that period of time who got sober as a result of his efforts. And then when he went to Akron on a business venture that failed, and instinctively he knew that he had to find somebody to work with, otherwise he was going to drink himself. And that led to his meeting with Bob, Dr. Bob Smith. And then the two of them, and Bob didn't get sober immediately either. He had a pretty significant relapse early. And then from then on, he didn't drink again until he died. But again, the measure of success with working with others is that it allows me to stay sober another day. Like my sponsor always used to tell me when I'd call him and express my gratitude for his willingness to come out and talk to me, or to take time out of his day to listen to me on the phone, whatever the case may be. And I would try to express my gratitude to him, and he would say, no, I need to thank you. Because by talking to you tonight, I get to stay sober another day. And I didn't understand that until sometime later when it was my turn to go talk to somebody. And I realized what it was he was telling me. And I didn't understand it until I had that experience. And the person I went to visit didn't stay sober, as far as I know. He never did stay sober. He may have, I don't know. But again, it's not a matter of who gets sober as a result of my efforts. It's a matter of, by attempting to take this message, carry this message to another alcoholic, it keeps me sober. And that idea is in this story of the very beginnings of Alcoholics Anonymous. They worked with a lot of people that didn't get sober. But those who did, grew until, now there's millions of people around the world that are sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. And with that, I'll share the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. And Serena. Come on in. Welcome to our meeting.
Thank you. My name's Serena, and I'm still saying recovering. I've got 47 days, so I'm a newbie. And thank you guys. Thank you so much. So I was just realizing, I don't think I have said thank you enough. We were just reading about, it was pretty evident from the numbers that this, it sounded like to me this, hello, the numbers, the people that are recovering and sober. Look, it was pretty evident that there was indeed a decent program, basically, in my words. And I just am looking, that's what happened with me, that I was looking at everybody, people and in the community and saying, well, you know what, they're healing, they're recovering, they're sober, and maybe I can do it, And so it's all of you guys. And I guess I haven't really said thank you enough to everybody, and I just want to thank you guys. This is it. This is the program, and you guys are why I'm sober right now. So nobody's treating me like a newbie or like I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm finding out there's all kinds of people in our community that are going to be there for you for different things in different ways. And my sponsor, the first time I work with her, it'll be tomorrow. There's not going to be a lot of warm and fuzzies there. Not going to be a lot of warm and fuzzies there. She's going to kick my butt, which is what I need with a sponsor. I think we're both Latin. I tend to, I carry a big stick. I'm Italian. Well, she's Hispanic. She's already kicking my butt. She's already told me to pull up my big girl panties and stop acting like a 5-year-old and getting into people's drama and all that. So, but I have warm fuzzies. I have Donald in here, and he's somebody that I can talk to and communicate with, and so this is amazing, and yeah, it the numbers and the amount of people and the sobriety, absolutely, and I just feel so humbled at this point. I just want to thank you guys. You have no idea. Well, maybe you do. Thank you so much. Thanks for letting me be here.
Thank you for coming, Serena. I know there's going to be some females and males that will put their number in the chat. Feel free to take those down. And Dana!
What's happening? Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Donald, and I'm a very grateful, recovered, but not cured alcoholic. There's a couple of things that I take away from this forward. One of the things, is the building blocks of our triangle. The unity, one alcoholic working with another. Service work, taking the word to another alcoholic who still suffers. And, then recovery. Oh my God, that's our thing right there. But one of the other things, that I, he realized in order to save himself, he had to give away what he had, what he learned. Whenever I was in college, I realized, the importance of teaching something to someone to actually understand what the subject is that you're, giving away. And because it embeds on your brain in a different aspect or a different way. It's not just from the way that you read and perceive it in, but then the way that you can teach it, and also you remember because you taught it to somebody. But then for the next person, it's like, well, you look at it, did I teach them the right way? You critique yourself. And then that's our 10th step, right there. But it's just amazing, what these guys had to go through back then. And to realize and to get those epiphanies, those God shots, spiritual awakenings and everything. But one of the other things that I took away from this part, was in the next to the last paragraph. to a recovery, a rehab, the statistics say 1, maybe 2 out of 100 will make it for long-term, longevity, long-term sobriety. But who's going to be that? I look at this room right here and stuff, I see that we're the lucky ones that understand what this program is. Right now there's, 14 people in here? Out of 1,400 people and stuff, we're the elite. Well, it's not the elite, but, we're the lucky ones. And it's our responsibility to take this message out to the alcoholic who still suffers. And to help them. Because somebody helped us. So, that's about all I've got for today. Thank you, guys. God bless you.
Thank you, Gandalf. Wonderful share. Jamie! 'Tis you.
Who, me?
You!
Hi, family. My name is Jamie. Very grateful, recovered alcoholic. I'm glad that all of you are here tonight. Serena, welcome. Glad to have you. I'm going to mention this first because Art talked about it. The book mentions 33 times, uses the word recovered. What have we recovered from? The seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show others precisely how we have recovered is what this book is about. So yeah, when we first get to Alcoholics Anonymous, we're new, we're in recovery, we're recovering. Because we haven't gone through the process of the steps yet. But once we go through the process of the steps and get to the other side, we have recovered from the seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, and it is steps 3 through 9 that accomplish that. So don't quit before the miracle. I love the foreword to the first, or to the second edition, and we're not even halfway through it. We'll finish it off next week with another series of numbers and statistics and so on and so forth. But it's true. A wholesale miracle did take place. What happened with just 2 alcoholics meeting? Excuse me. It works like this. Dr. Carl Jung gave Roland Hazard the idea that he must have a spiritual experience, that he was suffering from a spiritual malady. And that's the only thing that would work on his alcoholism. And Roland took that to Ebby through the Oxford groups. Ebby took it to Bill. Bill took it to Silky because Silky had 2 elements. He had the allergy and the mental obsession, but didn't have the spiritual malady element of it. And so Bill took it to Silky and to Dr. Bob together. Here's the interesting thing in Carl Jung's last letter to Bill that he wrote. He told Bill, I wasn't going to tell Roland anything about needing to have a spiritual experience. Had he not told him that and emphasized that, we probably would not have Alcoholics Anonymous today. I would still be a hopeless drunk
with no hope whatsoever. You know, and Bill worked with approximately 96 other alcoholics in that 6-month period. And not one of them stayed sober, but Bill did. And I take this position in my life. Whether somebody gets drunk or gets sober, I'm not responsible for either one. I don't have that kind of power. But what I do have is I have a responsibility that when somebody's hurting, when somebody's struggling, that I answer my damn phone. And I help them walk through whatever's going on. And maybe it's not the drink, maybe it's just life. Because setting the drink problem aside, what am I left with? Alcohol and my mind. And tonight in the recovered statement, it reads, therefore the alcoholic's problem centers in his mind rather than his body. So doesn't that make my thinking part of the problem? You know, I've got a threefold disease. I've got a spiritual malady, a mental obsession, and a physical allergy. There are, and everybody says, oh, I just want to be normal. Have you seen normal people? So, you know, there's lots of normal people that have mental obsession about all kinds of things. How many people do you know that are normal people that are busybodies and always obsessing about somebody else and how they should run their life and judgment and all of that? But they ain't alcoholic like me. Lots of people with spiritual malady in the world, and we see them even at church. Just because I'm going to church doesn't mean I don't have a spiritual malady. But we don't think twice about them. But I have all three of those things. And I have this disease. All three of those things coupled together are a deadly condition for me. So when I remove the drink from my life, I have to have a way and a process to overcome alcoholism. And that's what lays within the pages of this book. I'll just touch on this real quick and shut up because others have their hands up. He gave some numbers about groups and places that we're in today. And it does in the preface as well. Today we are translated into over 100 different languages. And at this last general conference, there were 2 more countries where our big book was translated into 2 more languages. We're in over 180 different countries in the world. Is it odd or is it God? Alcoholics Anonymous works 100% of the time, every time, without fail, with the people who will give it 100% of the effort to actually try it. Coming back next.
What a beautiful way to end that. And Billy, are you next?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi everybody, I'm Billy, I'm an alcoholic. I love meetings where the forewords are read and the history is shared. Because it's a powerful message to read the forewords. I have an app called Everything AA on my phone, and I can read all the forewords in the app, and that's really cool. I've been blessed that in my younger sobriety, myself and a bunch of other friends would all gather in Akron for Founders Day, and we would all, as a small horde, we'd go up to the archives in Cleveland and to Bill Smith's house in Akron, and just the sharing, 10, 25, 30,000 people in one meeting. And believe it or not, a bird can disrupt that. But I've had some good opportunities to share this message with other people. Did they all stay sober? I don't know. Maybe some of them, yes. Others, I don't know. Because people move, I moved. Life becomes lifey. But I'm just so grateful. I never thought I'd stay 36 hours, let alone 36 years. And that just blows me away. I'm just, wow. That was never plan A. But, by working with others, by sharing with others, by being available for others, even today, I got to work my steps. Something happened and plan B had to come forward, and it just, a couple of plan Bs happened today, didn't they? Last night when I was parking my truck, we had to move some cars, and I had no brakes in my truck. And I'm supposed to hook the camper up and start moving again, going somewhere else tomorrow, and so I got to get some brake fluid, and I got to get my brakes bled, and I got to do all kinds of goofy stuff like that before I hook up the camper. So that was kind of a, all right, you're supposed to be right where you are right now moment of let it all go. There's no plan right now. I don't have to bull and jam my way through this. I can just take a back seat. And I had to laugh because I thought I was safe in the bleachers back there on the couch. Don't come to Jamie's house and think you can hide in the couch in the back. You're not safe. You're gonna get called on. I'm a little tired tonight. It's, this heat. I'm not used to this long-term heat, so it's really been doing a little bit of a number on me. So by evening, I'm wiped out. I want to just go to bed. Don't even eat. Just go to bed. But Trish will make me eat. I can hear her snickering behind me. And that's another thing to be grateful for, because it's easy for me to skip meals and not take good care of myself, and then my spiritual condition goes into the toilet, and it's just a downhill roll from there. And I struggle with my weight. I know some of you met me this weekend and you're like, how can that tiny little twig struggle with her weight? I struggle with keeping the weight on, because it falls off of me every time I blink. It is, I have to eat and eat and eat and eat to keep any weight on. So, my heart goes out to those who can't eat because they can't lose the weight, and I have to overeat to get any of it. And I know what the cause is. There really isn't a good cure for it. It's just the way it is. But being sober has allowed me to find out more about how this body works and why this body works this way, and that's another gift of just working with others, is that I ask the questions. Actually, I used to tell my doctor, just make it stop. Fix it! He died last fall, my doctor. And when he retired 6 months before that, I told him, Jesus Christ, now I have to spend 30 years training a new doctor. I got the new one almost trained. Because that's what life is, you know. You go a little distance and then you readjust your steering wheel, and you go a little distance and you readjust your steering wheel. You can't just aim forward and go. That's not the way it is. Life is bumpy. Strap in, and that's okay. Because, like somebody else said, you know, I see drama queens running around. I duck and hide. I don't want any part of it. I read Reddit stories just for the humor of, do these people really behave this way? That's enough of me. I'm rambling and I'm tired, so glad to be here.
Thank you, Billy. We're glad that you are here. Larry?
What?
Come on down.
Yeah, I'm Larry, and I'm an alcoholic, and you know, I enjoyed my time, you know, with everybody this week, and but I don't do social media a lot. You know, I do it like on Zoom and stuff, but as far as checking Facebook and stuff like that, it's, you know, I every once in a while will check my Facebook account, because I don't just, you know, keep up with that kind of stuff. But I was inquired when I got back home Sunday or Saturday night. You know, I got home late, and then Sunday afternoon again. It was kind of different. I came home from our Sunday afternoon meeting, and again I had this feeling to check my account. So I did, and there, a member I knew, had a post, and so I clicked it, and I wanted to see, because she didn't post much. It wasn't it wasn't somebody that posts every time you got online. There was posts from this individual. So I did, and there was posts. Please pray. My brother passed away. So I called her. And her brother had passed away from alcoholism, acute, and complications. And I was reminded of this disease. I was reminded, because I've heard her talk. She's an adopted girl. She was adopted. She found her family late in life. And this is her real family. They're steeped in alcoholism, other things. And this was one of her brothers, her real, from her family she had just recently found. I immediately asked her if I could have prayer because of this forward, You see, it's one alcoholic helping another alcoholic. I asked if I could talk with the family. I knew they were all alcoholic. And she said yes. she would talk, and she'd call and ask, and I had the opportunity to talk with her family. They're from Knoxville. You know, not to make them feel bad because their brother had died with alcoholism or anything, but because I understood their brother and I understood them. And that's what I felt I wanted to just share and love them and bring a message. And because you see, that's what we bring is one alcoholic, and that's what Bill found when he found Bob. This seemed to prove that one alcoholic could affect another alcoholic. Found that it could. And I could see how it was affecting them as I talked. They knew that I understood their brother. Even though I never met their brother, they knew I knew their brother. And they invited me to come down with the member anytime, anytime they come, she came to visit them. Well, just come down, visit, And that's not my point. It's that I hope something I said, they know now. They know that I have a program. They know that I have recovered, and they know that they can. I shared with them what I have, and I gave away what was given to me. I shared that this was given to me because my God loves people like us. And he saw fair to leave a program like Alcoholics Anonymous. And I really feel that. I really feel that. And I hope I said something about this, because that's what I feel when I get to the forward to the second edition. I feel like it was about people being united by people of like experience, and it being exploded. It exploded because they were of like minds, and then just leave the results with God, because that's really all, and the only one that can really do the work anyway. I'm Larry, and I'm an alcoholic.
Thank you, Larry. I got chills when you said that. God likes us. Loves us, actually. Oh, all right. Now would be a good time for us to possibly close out. But of course I closed off.
Barry would have to read 164.
Here we go. Terry does?
Since you did the questions, yes. Or you did
No,
the...
Terry.
You did calling on people, so Terry will do the reading.
Oh, okay. I thought the comments is who does the reading. Terry, I was wrong.
That's all right. And I've been wrong several times tonight. Okay, we're going to close out the meeting, but feel free to stick around to the meeting after the meeting if you want to share anything else or just fellowship. Okay, so I have from page 164 of the big book, our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you could do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order, but obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is a great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Okay, we have a special way of closing out in pickle fashion. Since we're on Zoom, we can't hold hands. So what we do, Serena, is we just put our hands up. This is virtual hand holding. And we're going to have a moment of silence for the alcoholic who is still out there suffering and may even die tonight. So if we all join together and lift him up in prayer and silent meditation. So here's your moment. Okay, let's pray together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, folks.
But only if you work it, so work it because you're worth it.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey.
Good meeting.
Hey,
Good night,
everybody.
everybody.
Good
Good
to see
meeting.
ya.
Good to see y'all.